Welcome to Growing Up with AI, where I speak to parents who work with AI around how they think about the technology in the context of their kids. Today is a very special day because I actually have two guests on my podcast with me today. I have Laura, who has many years of experience as an advisor and investor, in particular in the educational startups, and Jussi, who is the founder and CEO of a company called 3D Bear that uses technology and AI to help with education. Welcome both, Laura and Jussi, to the podcast.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Thank you, Gabs.
All right, let's start off really simply. When you talk to your kids about what you do at work, what do you tell them, you see?
That's a tricky one, isn't it? Most of our work today is quite sophisticated. So, how to kind of boil it down for somebody to understand what exactly is involved? What I usually say is that I'm building something that helps people to learn. I'm building something that helps people to learn better, and I'm using technology to do it. Actually, my kids, they've participated in some of our work, as
Oh,
you
nice.
as you sure you understand as an entrepreneur how you kind of get everything together. But they've been part of some of the 360 filmings that we've done, for example, in kindergarten. So that helped them to understand. Although for them, the best part was getting prizes because they participated in the filming. And that's why they're asking, Dad, can I come to film 360 scenes with you again? I'm sorry to quench their enthusiasm because at the moment we're producing scenes for elderly care and not kindergarten.
So you start to bribe them early. That's the way to help them understand what you do for work.
Indeed.
Very good. And Laura, how do you explain to your kids? You have two sons who are a little bit older.
Yeah, mine are today they're 16 and 18. Uh, Back in the days, 4 or 5 years ago, when they were a little bit older than Jussis are now, I used to be a CEO and an entrepreneur. And at the time, I just kind of they actually asked me because I said I was the boss. They asked me that do I boss the other ones around like I boss them? But today, similar as with Jussi, so we made an exit on that company, and we have a family office, and we're investing into educational technologies. And both of my boys are on the board,
Nice.
so they actually understand a bit more of what I'm doing and what we're doing as a family, and they are even in the decision making when we kind of decide will we invest into companies, and we try to tell every single story of an investment also so that a 16 and 18-year-old can understand it, which is a really interesting thing. And I would still say, because we are investing into education, they are the primary targets. They're still in school, and they
Yeah.
have, for example, been using Jussi's 3D Bear things in the Finnish schools already at an earlier stage, and currently now also in high school.
Maybe I can build on what Laura said because I also kind of select the best edtech I find and help my kids to learn with it. I've been using, for example, this grapho game. Actually, Laura, I think you're in the board of grapho game, right? Which is a tool which helps kids to learn to read, and
Yeah.
it's built on AI on this kind of adaptive algorithm that it matches the kind of level of the learner, and it's built in kind of a university research. And it's really good. My kids learned to read with that app before it was due in school. So
Awesome. And you've kind of both mentioned AI there a little bit. So what does AI mean for you?
I can mention maybe that I think we have a little bit funny enough similar background with Jussi, which is when we were young. We did our PhDs, and at the time I was actually doing it in computational engineering with large language models, but we were using brain signals, so kind of cognitive technology, how you can control a computer with your brain signals. But already at that time, that was kind of an earlier version of AI, it just didn't have the name of it. So that's maybe kind of from background wise, and then if you still want to continue on top of that, and then I'll say maybe a few words of what I think about it today.
maybe I'll bring this into context of when a new person joins 3D Bear, and I'm going through the employee onboarding process, and it's always my turn to kind of go to the strategy and vision. Then we talk about the AI. So I usually ask the employee, what do you think? What characterizes AI? So there's usually really wide variety of answers, but how I myself kind of in this situation usually define it to make it more practical is that it's something, first of all, which is trained. So you have some source material, and then you train the AI with it. And that's really important to understand. So it's kind of a training which provides you a black box model. And then you
Yeah.
can, the black box is second characteristic, that it's not deterministic. When person looks into it, it cannot say that this AI model will do A, B, or C. You need to always subject some data into it, and then you can see what sort of a output comes. So I kind of build this like how you train AI. Then I do it's like input, black box, output, and then I usually go like, and that's the reason why if you evaluate AI models, it's the kind of this kind of a testing which is important, that you have an input and output and you compare what you get, and not the kind of a detailed arithmetics of the model, because it's not the model that you can evaluate. So I think these are two important things that they usually bring up. The third is that there's different because some people when they have AI they think only about the large language models, or some people in different industry they think about image recognition. So a third thing that I kind of bring up is there are different kinds of AI. So it's not just the large language models. You can similarly practice, for example, image recognition. If you have the same process that you have like training data, and then you build certain model with that, and then it's again input, black box, output. So bear in mind that there are many kinds of different AI.
And let's talk a little bit then about 3D Bear. What is 3D Bear about, and what made you start a company around education and using AI to help with educational outcomes?
There's multiple aspects to it. So 3D Bear, first of all, is we are a simulation pedagogy content company. So what we do is we harness simulations to build content specifically for vocational and corporate training that maybe it's not as straightforward as I say now, but maybe that's the best way of understanding it, which replaces school books. So that means you can use that as a holistic curriculum material instead of, do it yourself for teachers that they try to make their own materials. Some are good, some are not that exciting. Or school books. You can use our full curriculum content, for example, to study as a practical nurse in Finland,
Yeah.
and it comprises of simulations. And these simulations can be 360, they can be 3D, they can be branch scenarios, they can be real games, or they can be avatar practice exercises where you discuss with conversational AI agent. And then what is the really secret sauce of our company is to make those experiences pedagogically as meaningful as possible. So we have a lot of teachers, we have a lot of pedagogical experts in addition to this kind of a technical and design expertise. So we can think, how do we harness this technology in the best way to learn this particular skill? Let's say to practice patient diagnostics. It's most likely an AI avatar exercise combined with some visuals. To practice needle injection, it is a 3D game. To
Right.
practice the legislation, it's not likely simulation at all. You need to learn the theory first. So you need to kind of go through traditional text. So this kind of a thinking is the secret sauce of the company. We know which technology, modern technology, fits what specific learning needs. And with that knowledge, we build the holistic content.
And what made you start 3D Bear?
The desire to improve learning overall. I don't know, Gabrielle, we have this shared history of being students in Cambridge University. One of the lecturers in first year, they said that, you guys are so smart that I don't really need to teach you. And his lectures were crap. I don't think that that's the way forward in a way at any education level. And there's so much to do, so much that we can kind of help people to learn better overall.
And Laura, 3D Bear is just one of the many education companies that you invest in. What makes that sector so interesting for you? And is it particularly interesting now, or was that something kind of a passion that you've had for many, many years?
Yeah, it's the first thing is that I love to teach. I'm not a teacher. I've never been a teacher, but I love to see when kids, why not adults as well, learn. And you can see it in their minds, kind of how things change, how the thinking changes. You get somebody to understand a math equation. or learn to climb a tree or swim. And then kind of when you manage to do something with hard work and you get an exit out of it and you get money, I personally feel that you also then want to give back to the society. So that's maybe the second thing. So it's impact investing, where you're investing into something that really makes a difference. And I felt that education was closer to my heart than the Green Deal, for example. That is important, but education was closer to my heart. And then thirdly, kind of you ask now, or kind of has it always been? Yes, it has always been, but today, just today, the world is moving with such pace. It's kind of
Yeah.
the speed of change, the speed of adaptation that we have to do. It's amazing. And I personally feel that there's not a ministry in the world, an education ministry in the world, that knows what we should teach our children today.
Yeah.
We don't have the faintest clue what they should know in 10 years' time. And we should put much more effort into that. We should bring in new ideas, new thinking. We should do trials and tests. There is no right or wrong answer.
Yeah.
But it's a really interesting field to be in.
What follows what you said is that any 3 or 6 year span of planning is necessarily outdated during its duration.
Yeah.
And that's something that's, doesn't work with the education systems at the moment. In Finland, there's like 6 year span for curriculum. That doesn't match the speed of the world at the moment. It should be much more adaptable. And also some projects, because a lot of education is based on government funded project or donor funded projects, EU funded projects. They have also a time span of 3 years. So if you kind of have a project plan for 3 years where you spec at the beginning of the project what you do, it's necessarily outdated like 1 year in. So this is something that we should definitely change.
Let's talk a little bit about the education system in Finland, because for many, many years, it was one of the top educational systems according to PISA studies and other, I think, as well. I think kind of from your perspective now, and I think also from some of the studies, it's no longer quite as much at the top. Is that because it's so slow to change, or is there something different, more fundamental to it? Because I can't imagine any other educational systems being much quicker changing than the Finnish one. You're probably quite common, right? Like, you need to create plans, you need to create workbooks. That takes time. It requires a lot of consideration, a lot of discussion. So
Uh,
what's kind of unique about Finland now that you feel has kind of contributed to the drop in the outcomes?
First of all, we have to remember that we're among the few countries in the world where our teachers are really highly educated. Uh, and in some sense, they're given a bit of freedom in the teaching. At the same time, the whole structure of the schools is changing. Classes are getting bigger. We have more and more foreigners coming in. We've had a lot of we can't blame it on the foreigners coming in, but there's much more. So there's much more to take into account. We've had COVID-19 closing of the schools, and there's kind of a lot of change for the teachers, and maybe somehow also the kind of the overall ministry in Finland is not giving enough guidance to that. Then, if we refer to the PISA results, I read the whole study when it came out. It's around 300 pages, and I'm not 100% sure that it's measuring the right things anymore. And I am happy for Singapore being number one. They are definitely kind of doing and getting what they're measuring. So they've
Yeah.
kind of focused everything in teaching on just making the first in PISA. And we have dropped. But in Finland also, we've dropped in many other things. So it's a combination of many things changing, and then many of the teachers still being maybe on the older side. And so let's say middle age is kind of so both young and old, but there's a lot of teachers who are also old, and should the ministries, for example, do something about teaching teachers more about the new ways of learning and technology and AI. There's not too many energies in that line. Whereas Jussi mentioned earlier when we were discussing that, I didn't even know it, that the town of Helsinki has decided to ban AI. So it's kind of, I think we're going in the wrong direction here. And
Yeah.
still on the AI aspect, which is one of my favorite ones in schools, is that when cars came out back in the days, and we started doing car crashes, did we stop using cars and go back to horses? No, we started teaching people to drive.
Yeah.
So analogy here on that.
I'm kind of curious around what you said around whether PISA still measures the right thing. We have some very good friends in Singapore, and definitely their kids, even though they're quite young, you see they're about the age of your kids, they're quite stressed. And at that age, that feels quite early to start worrying about performance, educational performance, and kind of the impact it might have on your longer life. So what did you mean by, are we testing the right things?
Yeah, the test itself is very basic skills, STEM skills. So there's maths, there's reading comprehension, very little to do with group work. It's a personal test, very little to do with adaptability, with new kind of emotional skills that you need more and more in life. So they're only measuring, I'd say, half of what kids should know.
If you normalize the results with the time used for studies, we are still ranked third or fourth. It's just that, for example, in Singapore, they use a lot of more time to teach reading and mathematics. So that's one thing to understand. So in a way, it's also like Laura has been bringing up, it's a value-based decision. In Finland, instead of grinding maths and basic literacy skills, there's a lot of hobbies. Kids do dancing, they do yoga, they do ice ball, they do football, they do a lot of different kind of hobbies and this kind of extracurricular activity. I think you can get stressed about that in Finland, though, as well. If some parents who are really kind of a high achieving in Finland, I don't think they take the kids' time to kind of get them to learn better maths or reading. They are really insistent then on these hobbies, so they want them to be the best Formula driver or whatever that you do outside of the school. So that's one. The second thing I think that I'd like to add into this discussion is that traditionally, like Laura said, the strengths of the Finnish education system, how we got to the top of the PISA results, like what Mr. Pasi Salberg is doing when he's lecturing around the world, is the teacher's freedom and then the high quality of teacher education. So these are the kind of building blocks. But then the world has changed. Like 30 years ago, having freedom as a teacher was a kind of a new and strange thing. Let's say in hierarchical systems wherein you need to kind of verify your lesson plans from your boss and check that you're always teaching for the curriculum. It's a great thing that it fosters kind of intellectual capability and thriving to teach the right skills if you have this freedom. But I think today this freedom has maybe gone a little bit too far. It's come to the kind of extent that it has become, instead of being an asset, it has become a liability. So teachers might find this freedom so important that they think that, I am the master of my class. I teach biology and I am not doing anything else except teaching biology for my class. And then in this kind of a mindset, it becomes really difficult to lead the schools. You don't have accountability, you don't have result-based system. It's just when the principal tries to teach with the teacher who's the master of biology, he doesn't even have a connection, or she doesn't even have a connection. Anything outside your basic kind of a work, which is like teaching biology in this example, is seen as not part, not my problem. And then all sorts of development projects become difficult. And this is the kind of also the mindset that does not foster right sort of gathering knowledge or capability building in the modern world. The modern world is about cross-cultural teams. It's about teamwork. It's about, interacting at multiple different levels. Innovation happens when you put many different people from different backgrounds together working on a difficult problem in a given time frame. So this does not at the moment happen, I think, enough in the Finnish school system. So we should find a way to develop, and this is just like self-critique, find a way to develop to somehow break this selfish freedom, to make it selfless freedom maybe again.
So I'm kind of interested in what you think might then be a better way of measuring whether an education system is good or not. Because in a way, right, what you're saying, if the Finnish students spent more time doing hobbies and maybe playing team sports, that feels like it's building those skills, Laura, that you mentioned earlier are actually quite important beyond the root memorization of stuff and the very abstract learning that you get in maybe a school that's more optimized for PISA. So do you have a sense around, like, how do you know whether a system is delivering for an economy and for a country?
I think it's a great question. It's a bit of a difficult question at the same time. I'm not sure it's kind of because I think we've all already started to think about our matriculation examinations, kind of the final exams that we have, that they are also a bit boring. And do they even measure the right things when you go out of school and head to university? I am personally a believer of more adaptable measurements in this Grapho game, for example, learning to read app. We are now in 15 different countries, 15 different languages. It's, as Jussi told, his kids have learned to read with it. Most children in Finland have learned to read with it for several languages. But there, we're actually using now in Iceland, where we're covering the whole country, that every week they get the results. How many kids have learned to read more?
Yeah.
And then, so there's no actually final exam. They know how many are behind, how many are are there kids who are going to be having problems with dyslexia, because it was originally developed for finding out if kids have dyslexia or not. And you can actually jump on it kind of a month into the problem and not wait until the reading tests are done in May, and then you realize that you've had a child who's having dyslexia. And I think the same thing can be done for many things. And I think it's also a lot about kind of that the children feel that they enjoy learning. And how do you really measure that?
Yeah.
And not that I'm learning because I have to do a test.
Yeah. I think there's something interesting around some of the other conversations I've had on this podcast was around the importance of a growth mindset in a world that's changing more and more. And how do you measure that is actually quite difficult. I'm curious around, like, both of you obviously are building technology to help with education. What's the right amount of technology within a school system, and where does the human come into that, and that human connection and all of those skills? I'm sure certain skills are hard to learn through technology. As you mentioned, like teamwork and stuff like that is probably still requires a certain amount of human touch. How do you see that balance?
There was actually one study that was done in Finland in connection with the publication of these PISA results. And it showed, again, we know all the biases involved and so on in social studies, but the result of this study was that the optimum of using tech per day was 1 to 2 hours per student. And if it was less, the results became worse, and if it's more, the same. So, but then to the biases. So of course, I don't think we are using the right technology at school at the moment at the kind of optimal level. So for example, even though graphic game is used in many schools, it's not used in all schools. And there's also bad solutions that kind of don't help with learning. And sometimes the schools, municipalities, or teachers are not the best at selecting the tech to use. So I think that flaws a little bit the results. So we don't yet have the right technology into use. And I think that's actually something that we could work better as a society in Europe. In these democratic societies, we have usually kind of spreading the right technology, even though if you would have like all the impact assessments, even if you had all the results that proved that this helps kids to learn, this helps kids to do mathematics, for example, with this eduten, or they have proof that it works, or a graphic game that the kids will start to read better. Even if you have this proof, it's really difficult to spread this technology into the education system. Whereas,
Yeah.
let's say in Mongolia, this example of eduten, there's a one director of education. When he signs a deal, they force it top down to the system, and all teachers and students must use it. That's not probably the best in this kind of a Western democratic way of, getting people engaged and involved, but at least there, the kids have an equal chance to learn with the best possible technology available to learn mathematics. So we should find a way in our Western democracies that we can harness the best tech in some better way than leaving everybody their own choice to choose. Because that won't lead to best results in this changing world when, there's 200 different opinions of what is right and what is wrong. And, 90% of the people don't care less about real impact scientific results.
I think I also have the feeling, right, that the scientific results are not necessarily clearly going in one direction, right? So Denmark used to provide iPads to a lot of their schools. They're pulling back on that and moving more towards the analog world. You mentioned Helsinki banning AI. I'm assuming that was based on some sort of study in some shape or form as well. So is it really that clear around like what the right approach here is, or is it kind of there's still quite a lot of interpretability and it depends what you're trying to optimize for?
I think there's loads of interpretability, and I come back to the teachers and the teachers not knowing how to use how to select the tech or even use the tech, where I think we should first focus on getting the teachers up to date, because they might even be using it in the wrong way. And then in the end, the kid ends up watching TikTok on the during the lesson, which wasn't the point. So, and then kind of bringing that back to Jussi's point on that, how could we spread them more? Because we need to also get them in use and have the teachers trainings. We've talked too little about public procurement, and especially innovative public procurement. So the largest buyer group of edtech at the moment are schools, and they are usually run by the public sector in most of the countries in Europe. It's a different game when you go for the private sector. And there, how could we get the schools to be a bit more innovative and have there the teachers that can select the teachers that can teach, and then have procurements where the companies can come in like 3D Bear and offer their solutions, and then maybe have another company there as well. And also having the schools as an innovative playground is the wrong term, but a place where together with the kids you're developing the tech. That is also a thing they have to do in the future. So, and the children need to learn that everything is not perfect, and you can also be there to adapt and do some critical thinking and give feedback, and have more of those schools as well that are kind of at the forefront of using and having that just as a lesson, part, a special lesson or part of a lesson.
That's actually a great point, Laura. And I think why Helsinki, for example, banned AI, it was also, I think, part of this privacy concerns, but also because you can't be sure that the AI gives the right answer or the students are using it in a right way. For example, they could use it to cheat on exams or something. But I think that the kind of a second thing that, you're scared of using AI in teaching because it gives the wrong answer is exactly what you said, that should not be, we shouldn't be afraid of it. The kids
Yeah.
need to use AI in the future. They need to understand that it gives wrong answers. It's like this Richard Feynman, like I studied physics. He wrote this book, Feynman Lectures of Physics. And it's like a holy Bible of undergraduate and graduate physics, also in the US. So what one student spotted a mistake and wrote to Feynman saying that, I failed, or I don't know if he failed or got a C instead of B in my physics exam because your book had the wrong answer. Feynman answered, uh, uh, my bad, my book had a mistake, but you're bad. You didn't think it through. You didn't think if this answer is wrong or right. I don't write for fools. So I think AI at the moment does not write for fools. And as quicker that we can learn who learns how to use it, how to harness it better, who harnesses the internet better when it came. Those are the kind of people who will have the jobs in the future, people we want to be teaching.
So how do you approach technology at home with your kids? You see your kids are 7 and 8, so still quite young. Is there screen limits that you have with them? Kind of, do you expose them to all of these AI tools beyond 3D Bear? Or kind of, how do you think about what the right balance is of technology versus non-technology?
We do limit their screen time, and I think part of it, and we just like the 8-year-old, she turns 9 in August, Lempi. She got her first like smart clock 2 weeks ago, and now for the first time she can message her friends and make phone calls. It's been actually really interesting to watch how it works. Can't actually access devices usually without our permission yet. So we control when they're not in social media, and I think part of it is because some of it is addictive,
Yeah.
and as a kid you're not yet equipped. Most of the adults are not either, but especially if the kids, you're not equipped yet with the right formation of brain to be dealing with that sort of addiction and some of the kind of a content that's available
Yeah.
online. So that's maybe the prime reason why restricted. I'm a gamer, so I play games. And I play some games with my kids. And it's actually a very enjoyable parent-kid activity to do together. And that has been really good. We played one game which was really long, this kind of a role-playing game, lasted 9 months to complete on multiple different sessions. And when it ended, my kids, they cried. They wanted to play it again. And I think part of it actually in this context was because they enjoyed so much our time together playing the game, not the game itself, actually. So for us, it's also kind of a social moment that we do together. It's like, experiencing or telling a story together in a way. Maybe not to go too long, but for the AI tools, I use AI with my kids for storytelling. So I tell bedtime stories to kids with AI. I ask them what kind of story you want to hear, what kind of a characters you want to have. I input them into, for example, ChatGPT, and it gives me a story. And slowly, with the memory function on the thread, it learns about their preferences. So I can say this was not fun or they didn't like this. So it then adapts the story and uses the characters from before. And most fun time we had with kids, we had a long car drive, and we then they said that can you use Jussi like ChatGPT? Okay, that's okay. What do you want to hear? Do you want to hear a story? We want to hear a song that has poo words in it. So I asked ChatGPT to make a song that was a skippity sammakko in Finnish with poo words in it. And like we laughed half an hour. I mean, we just listened to it and we just drove and laughed like crazy, and tears come from my eyes. We had to stop because it was so funny. So that was maybe the most memorable moment when we did a kind of a AI activity together.
I'm kind of curious around where you draw the line between social media and games and messaging and that stuff, right? Because it's not very clear. It's all mixing into one. So how do you know what apps your kids are allowed to use versus which ones aren't?
I think for me it's easy because it's still parent led, so they can't really do it on their own. Yeah, I give Onni and Lempi my mobile phone, but I always keep an eye on like which games they use, and they are okay with that. They ask, Dad, can I now watch YouTube? I want to watch slime videos. Can I play Slime Rancher on PC? So I kind of still control the content. I think it becomes much more difficult when I don't. I don't know. Maybe that's something that Laura has more to say about.
Yeah, so Laura, when did you give devices to your kids, and how did you navigate that? Especially, I guess, like when your kids were a bit younger, we didn't quite know so well how social media might impact them over the long
No,
term.
and they're actually the first generation having smartphones in their hands because they're now 16 and 18. So it was approximately at that point of time when they started coming to the price point when you could buy a phone. I mean, at the age of 6. My husband is ex Nokia, so kind of we have to have mobile phones in the house. It's by default. But it's so they've had it from a rather young age. The first ones weren't that smart, so it was more kind of following that. I knew when they went to school, because in Finland you go walk to school yourself. They actually took the bus to school themselves, so that's also a thing that you even do at the age of 6 and 8 in Finland. So you could follow, and I always knew where they were, and then they could call me if they had some trouble. So that was a kind of a good thing. So that's the old-fashioned way of it. Then I think YouTube came pretty early. Maybe a few years after that, they started watching YouTube videos. And I would say that my kids, they are brought up, trained by YouTube because they learned everything. We actually didn't go to any soccer practices or something like that. They became really interested in trampoline jumping. We bought a big trampoline, and they learned to do kind of 4-way backflips with YouTube
Oh, wow.
videos. At the older age, they learned to kind of make sure that their mopeds, motorcycles work, and what are the problems with YouTube videos, because you can find a solution for any problem with YouTube. And I think that has been a great part of what you can really get for the kids. And they know the solution. They know that if kind of the lights don't work at home, they go to YouTube and ask what's the problem, or something like that. They don't get food into the refrigerator yet with YouTube videos. But they do go to the store and buy toilet paper when needed. So that's one part. YouTube. Then I do take the time together. For me, it's been very important. We eat dinner every day together. We are a Finnish family. We go to the sauna every day together. And those two places are phone free.
Right.
So also dinner tables. And at the dinner tables, because I can't anymore watch what they watch. I've tried to teach them to watch smart things. And what we still do at dinner tables and in the sauna is we talk about what they watch. and how it feels. And there's been a lot of things about Ukraine war, and there's been a lot of things about Trump, and kind of we do have these kind of political discussions and things like that on kind of the content that you see. How should you react to it?
Yeah.
But I cannot. It's not anymore about you cannot watch TikTok. That's kind of beyond it now at the age of 16 and 18. Then kind of good things that they've been doing is they've been taking pretty well ChatGPT and the other AI things into use. I just asked Henrik, my 16-year-old, he's now first year in high school, finished first year in high school, that how does he use it? And he said that the best thing is that they only have computers nowadays. So in Finland, we don't have any textbooks in high school.
Wow.
So all the books are also kind of ebooks. So when he's going into an exam, he actually asks ChatGPT that, can you make me a test exam from this textbook? And either ChatGPT finds the textbook online, if it's one that's available for free, or then Henrik copy-pastes the content there. And then he gets a quiz where he can practice and go through with ChatGPT that how had he learned it. I thought that was pretty cool. Henrik also did a coding app. He coded the first time when you could with ChatGPT because they were selecting high school second-year courses, and they're very popular in the school where he goes, and it's kind of you have to be really quick to get them. So he and a few friends, they actually coded a software where which chose the courses for them within the first 15 seconds, and they got all the courses. I think that's pretty geek. Thankfully, he's also a sporty guy and goes to the gym and does still his trampoline jumping, but those are kind of the cool things you can do. My older one, he's in vocational school. So he's becoming an electrical engineer, and he said that ChatGPT is still, it's not good for that kind of things. He's been asking about, can you draw me an electrical board, for example? And so you can see there the learning data is not good enough. So for these really specific things, and he hasn't been able to use it in a similar manner. Then again, he does put in a picture of his 30-year-old Mercedes there and asked ChatGPT to color it with different colors so he knows how to paint it. So other ways of using this. But I really loved Jussi your bedtime stories, so that was good. That's something I used to do back in the days, but those were good old-fashioned books.
I still want to say one thing connection what you said. I think ChatGPT is great for like fixing things or, for example, this is not a kid example, but I do very similar things with kids. It's just one that came to my mind. I had a new bicycle, a mountain bike. We had this kind of a shop, air gauge that I didn't know what kind of a pump I should use to put air in. So I took a picture. I said that, can you help me to find the right pump? He said, yeah, this is not a normal pump. You need this kind of a shock pump to use it. Okay, then I asked where I can get it. Well, there's this Motonet close to you in Konala. Go there. I went there. I'm really bad at like practical things, physicist by training. And then I went to the kind of shelf, and there were like million pumps. Then I took a picture, and can you say where is the pump? Looks like it's here. Then I took a picture of it. Yeah, is it this one? Yeah, it's that one. Great that you found it. And it gave me step-by-step instructions to kind of repair or fix or kind of do that kind of a thing. So I think it works really pretty well. So whatever it's like Legos or, doll houses or what have you, I think that the process is most important, that you go together with your kids, that, this is how I can now fix it or get advice, and that will help them to kind of build this AI capability.
So Jussi, have your kids stopped asking you and are asking ChatGPT instead when they have a big question?
They don't have the access.
Okay,
That's the
right. So
thing.
you're
I
the
still
intermediate
control it. So
to
they
ChatGPT.
ask me to ask ChatGPT.
Yeah. It sounds to me like both of you are pretty optimistic as well around like how technology will impact the future for your kids over the coming years and what it will enable them to do. You see it more as an opportunity than something that might be a threat to their ability to find a job or happiness or whatever.
I don't think we can afford to see it as a threat. It's coming. So then I'm always the positive thinker here, that then let's make it an opportunity. So and kind of embrace it, teach our children the empathy and the other skills and the kind of how to understand what AI gives you. But it will happen. It's kind of I don't believe that it will be closed down and we won't have AI in 5 years' time. So then we need to embrace it and thus make it an opportunity.
I don't think that the world-ending AI risk will come from our field or what our kids or we do with the AI. I think I read the biography of Elon Musk, and the reason why he kind of initially funded OpenAI was that the Google was developing its own kind of a closed AI, and he had this talk with the CEO of Google and asked that why are you making this closed AI that it will become so powerful that it will replace humankind? And then the CEO of Google said that you're being racist, favoring biological organisms against digital ones. So when CEO of Google is thinking that, sometimes it comes to my mind that in Europe we are kind of struggling the minutiae of GDPR when the one of the head developers, the biggest company in the world, is thinking that it's okay that the AI takes over humanity. So it's kind of talking about this regulation in Europe. I think this is one other interesting topic we might not have time enough
Yeah.
for, but it makes it kind of puts it in perspective. So yes, there are risks, but like always, why would worrying risks outside our own sphere of influence do any good?
I had the thought here still quickly on the opportunity versus risk. We talked a little bit about this earlier before the podcast, was the alpha school.
Yeah.
And they're kind of the opportunity versus risk. I think it's definitely a case that anybody who's working in education at the moment should look into. I'm not saying that I fully agree with what they do, but it's a school in Houston, Texas. You can Google it, and they have 2 hours of team skills and creativity skills in the morning. Then every single every single knowledge that we've learned, the basic knowledge in school, math, history, biology, reading, that's taught by AI for 2 hours. And then in the afternoon, they're doing different kind of creativity skills with the teachers. They call them, we don't
Guides.
call them teachers, yeah, guides. So I think in this way, they're getting much more of the teacher time, of the new skills that they need to learn, empathy. There was one YouTube video on how they were playing poker in the afternoon, so that they learn about empathy and learn about lying and learning about kind of how to read emotions and things like that. Just kind of on the opportunity versus risk, I definitely think that for anybody who's still pondering on which one it is, that's something to look into for a half an hour or so.
Yeah, I think Alpha School is super interesting, right? Like it definitely takes the AI possibilities arguably to a fever dream of a technologist of how far you can go there. And, I think has positives and maybe also questionable approaches to education. I want to come back to what you were saying, Laura, earlier around the skills that are therefore required in this world. If that's the world that we're going to live in, what will make our kids successful and happy?
I've said empathy many times. I don't know
Yeah.
if you can call it a skill, but in today's world, I think you can. I think it's the one thing that will make us smart versus AI. Then adaptability, definitely. So, and that's already something that we've needed to have for the last 10 years. The world is changing with such pace that next year doesn't look the same as this year. We've had already so much for our kids during the last 5 years with the COVIDs and the kind of, in Finland, the war starting in the neighboring country and so forth. So you have to be adaptable. You have to be kind of just learn to go with the flow. Curiosity, definitely. So we need to be curious. Life needs to be fun. So let's not kill that part of people. People are generally, kids are curious by when they're born. And then maybe the final one, which comes more to the threats and risks, is the critical thinking. So we can actually say that we don't believe that this part of whatever AI said is true, and that's okay. Like the textbook example for the physics back in the days.
And you see, what do you want to make sure that your kids take away and learn before they leave their home?
So happiness is an interesting question. I think you're happy if you live life according to your values and are enjoying the journey. So those are the kind of two things that make you happy. And it's not about results or achievements as such that lead to happiness or skills, but those two things.
So is it about learning and understanding your values and then having the confidence to follow through with your own path despite others having a different path?
I guess you said it better than me. And for the critical thinking aspect, I think that's also super important. And I think there's like what I want my kids to learn is that you should be able to think about everything you see with your own brains and with some heuristics. So there's some heuristics that you can rely on. Let's say the laws of physics. If something tells you that the gravity doesn't work or whatever, you can say that this is not true based on some heuristics that you understand that the world works in this way. So to kind of give them the heuristics that they can rely on, that they can be confident on their own thinking and know then which, non-heuristics you should challenge. I think that's really important because what I see happening in today's world is that there's so much that's not true. There's so much that's opinionated, so much that is just somebody saying about something that you lose your heuristics. You don't
Yeah.
know who to rely on, and then at the sudden in this chaos, all opinions are of same value.
Yeah.
And you can fight that if you have some compass or heuristics that you can kind of rely on and measure and know that how I can weigh these arguments. So that's I think really important skill.
It sounds to
It's
me like the
also
way that you describe those heuristics is almost back to values, right? It's the what matters to me as a person, how am I a person, how should I behave with
yeah,
others and with myself.
also that for
Thank you, Jussi and Laura. This was a super interesting conversation. And maybe just one last question before we end. If in 10 years' time you get to spend more time with your kids because of AI, why is that? Jussi, let's start with you.
if I have more time to spend with my kids, right?
Because of AI, what has AI done to enable
So
this?
that's I think easy for me because it's building on that bedtime story example. So I think AI will develop in gaming and entertaining industry, so that it will provide personalized experiences. It can go as far as like what we are in 3D Bear doing. We are actually building adaptable learning simulations. So the same tech can easily be applied, well, not easily, but in due time can be applied to entertainment. So AI can provide us as a family personalized dreams that we are experiencing together. These are the new age games. So I'm really looking forward to exploring and engaging to them, and with the kind of a small caveat of making them not too addictive.
And Laura?
I might even counter your question. So I believe that we're going through a similar phase as we did with the Industrial Revolution. So jobs are changing. They're changing drastically, and they will change in some way that we don't know how they change. I am not sure that we will have more time with our children because of AI. I hope that we will have more time with our children because we understand the value of spending time with our children
Yeah.
and doing valuable things with us. And in the background, there will be the whatever smarter jobs, the other ways of doing, and the human has adapted to that as we did after the Industrial Revolution, where then we are becoming smarter and smarter in wanting to spend time together and both with the children and hopefully at that time with all the grandchildren as well.
Awesome. Thanks both.